Well, we're about halfway through the menu, so let's continue. We're in the setup menu now. Now, the first setting in the setup menu is format memory card. You can come into this menu, cycle over to the right and select the highlighted yes and say yes to format the memory card, or again, you can quickly access that externally on the camera. You've got LCD brightness, that's your rear screen. If you're finding that oftentimes the screen seems much darker than what your images appear or much brighter, you can change that. Wherever you change it to, though, I would suggest staying consistent, because if you keep changing it, that's going to impact your determination or your evaluation of the exposure, and that could adversely impact that. We've got the clean image sensor. This is a great tool in these cameras nowadays. It works quite well. You have the ability to either clean on command if you've noticed a dust speck, or you can just set it to clean at startup and shutdown. I've got the default set to clean at startup and shutdown so that it just kind of shakes the sensor a little bit before I use it. But again, if I notice an issue while I'm out in the field shooting, I might activate the clean now. This is a great tool, as I mentioned, but it only works if it can actually shake the dust off.
It's something that's stuck on.
That's right. Sometimes you have to resort to
our next option.
to other means of cleaning, which leads us right to our next option, which is the lock mirror up for cleaning. What that does is it kicks the mirror up out of the way, and it takes away the charge on the sensor. For those of you who are not familiar with cleaning your sensor, I'm actually also going to be doing a sensor cleaning tutorial and camera maintenance, so stay tuned for that as well. We've also got the video mode. Well, those of us in North America will set it for NTSC, and most of the rest of the world will be PAL. We've also got HDMI. We talked about how you can hook your camera up to a high definition TV. Well, there's a lot of different resolutions that TVs come in. I found that auto setting works quite well. The camera will go out and detect what type of resolution the TV is. But if you know specifically the resolution of your TV, you can input it here under the HDMI setting. World time, that's simple when you're setting up the camera. It's setting the time for your time zone, for your format, whether it's day, month, year, month, day, etc. And you can even set it for daylight savings time. Some people actually, when they're on location, will change the day so that they have the exact time of capture.
Right.
It's a good way to go.
Especially those who travel from, say New York to LA or even to Europe or whatever.
Exactly. You're multiple hours off, and it might say 3 a.m. when really it was 8 p.m. or something. You've also got language. So whatever your native language is, you can have the menu read that out. Image comment. We had talked about how you can change the file name to have initials or a particular code that works well for you, and then we had talked also about how you can actually put your whole name in there. Well, you would do that right here in image comment. It's a real cool feature. You would just activate that and go down to input comment, and I've got mine set where it shows the copyright symbol. I've just put a little parentheses and a C, and then my full name. So whenever somebody looks at the file info, there's no doubt these are my images.
And just a tip on that is once you have your image comment put in and then you hit OK or done or whatever it is and go back out, you always want to check the box that says attach comment and then hit
move up.
OK. You have to hit OK or it won't input it. It won't attach it.
Exactly, which is the done. You go up, scroll back up to the done. So you input your comment, check the attach comment, scroll up to done and say OK, or you'll find that it actually didn't take. The auto image rotation. What this one does is when you're reviewing your image in editing software later on, if you've taken vertical shots, if you've got auto image rotation on, most software will sense that and it will automatically turn your images into the portrait setting so that you don't have to do that.
Or whatever you use.
Almost everything out there anymore. There's also a dust off reference photo. Now, we had just talked about cleaning the sensor. Well, you're out in the field and you've got dust. Personally, I don't clean my sensor out in the field because I'm more concerned about introducing extra dust. So the dust off reference photo is great if you use Nikon's Capture NX2 software. I can take a frame here and then go into Nikon Capture NX, and it will digitally remove the dust as long as it's in that same spot on all of those other images. It's a real valuable time-saving tool.
So with the dust off reference photo, whenever you shoot the picture that the software is going to be referencing, does that need to be like a solid color or a white background or whatever, or can that be just, a picture of my mom,
That's a great question. Actually, you want to shoot something with a solid background, something white or at least totally neutral. And what that does is then it's going to make those dust spots show. See, oftentimes when you're shooting in a busy scene, you don't even know you have dust. It's not till you get that sky or skin tone where those dust start showing up. So for photographing the dust off reference, absolutely. Photograph on a neutral
So just
background.
a sheet of copy paper or something?
Sure, that works perfectly. A plain blue sky if you've got one. We've got battery info. Now that's a great tool. Not only do you have the gas gauge out here or the battery gauge on the top of your display, you've got the ability to look inside the camera in the menu, and you've got what's called a battery meter. So it tells me that I've got 68% of my battery still available to use. There's a picture meter, and what that tells me is how many shots I've clicked on this particular battery, charged battery. And then you've got charging life. Batteries do have a limited life. It's pretty extensive what it is, but at some point they will become exhausted. So you've also got a gauge that shows you just how much longer you can expect your battery to last.
And what I'm noticing here with the MB D10 grip is it actually shows both batteries, the one in the grip and the one in the camera, and it has the one that's currently being used highlighted in yellow. So that's just, if you've got the extra grip, that gives you that extra bit of information on that.
Great, thanks, Brad. We've also got, and it's grayed out right now, but you have the ability of adding a Nikon wireless transmitter, which has all kinds of great functions. One primary function is you can actually transmit images as you're capturing them back to a predetermined source. So if you're in the field, those images can go back to the office and start processing right away. The next one is image authentication. This is a pretty unique feature, and it requires Nikon's image authentication software. But if you have that turned on, people can put your images into this software and tell if anything has been done to them, if they've been altered. I could see that as potentially a really great source for law enforcement or any time you need to make sure that these are images taken as captured.
Untampered.
Untampered, that's a great term, thank you. Copyright information. We talked about how you can add an image comment so your name goes with every file. You can also put that same information in that has copyright information and your name as well. So in that case, if you wanted, you could use image comment for something else. I've got them both set to my name. I just don't think you can be too careful. I want people to know that if that's my image, it's my image. Now we've got save and load settings. As you go through all your menu items and set all this stuff up, and maybe you have multiple cameras, or maybe we want to share the same settings, I can go through and make all these settings, save them onto a card, take that card out and hand it to you, and you can load that into your camera, and we've both got the exact same settings.
That would be great.
Including my name on all your shots. Additionally, we've got GPS. We had talked about how you can plug a GPS into the 10-pin connector. So this is just where you would activate some of the information. One thing being the auto meter off. You can actually have it so that the meter will not kick off, disengaging the GPS. There's the virtual horizon. This is a really fun feature. It's just kind of cool for getting your horizon line straight. But if you look at the camera, as you tilt, this little scale tilts. It's almost the exact same thing as they see in cockpits. But it's a real fun thing, and it's great for keeping horizon lines straight.
This is actually one of Joe McNally's favorite features of the newer cameras, because whenever he has a lot of time on airplanes, he takes the camera out and acts like he's flying it. You can go to his blog and check that out if you like. Just an aside.
I don't know, sounds entertaining to me.
Yeah.
There's also non-CPU lens data. That's another great feature that they've added to these cameras. It's fairly recent, but people that have non-electronic lenses, if you will, when you put those on, you used to lose a lot of functions in the camera. Well, if you have a manual focus lens, you'll still not be able to autofocus, but if you actually go in and input the information about your lens, first off, you put the lens on, you give it a number. So if I want to put a manual focus 50mm lens on here, I could set it on, give that an assignment of lens number 1. I go down here and I tell the camera what focal length that is and what the maximum aperture is. I say okay, and then every single time I put that lens on, the camera knows that and at least incorporates more automation than it would have otherwise.
Cool.
Very useful feature for those who have not actually converted over to all automatic. Alrighty, we've got just a few more left to go. We have the AF Fine Tune. Well, you also have the ability to come in here and in the menu tweak the focus on your lens. If you find that it's just not quite nailing the focus every time on a specific subject, a specific distance, you can come in here, do some tweaking of the lens, and have it save that value so that then when you're looking through the lens focusing, you can rest assured that that particular lens is going to be sharp.
Cool.
We've got firmware version. If you scroll over to the right, this is a new camera. It's firmware version 1.0. But as Nikon is constantly updating and improving their cameras, they don't forget some of the cameras that are still in existence. And sometimes they'll find little tiny bugs in there, or they'll just be wanting to add slight improvements to it. So you'll find an announcement, or if you don't, you can go to nikonusa.com, look at the downloads, scroll down to your camera, and you look at the D700. And if it shows a firmware version upgrade, Nikon has great instructions on how to do it. You can update the camera without having to send it in. Real cool feature. Well, that concludes the setup menu. We're almost done. I know you're anxious to get out shooting, so we'll continue on through here so that you can do just that.